This is Mr. MegaManFan. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. You know all the things to do. Almost 5 years after I originally talked about it on Genesis Does, we have a game back again, and this time a physical edition of the game. This is Undeadline for Sega Genesis. Now, when I talked about this the last time, it was with the knowledge that I would probably never own a copy of this game because loose copies go for over $100 and complete copies go for several $100s because it was a Japanese exclusive game only released on the Mega Drive, never released in North America. However, things have changed since then. Retrobit Publishing decided to pick up the rights to this game from T&E Soft and put out an officially authorized re-release, Localized in English. And so today, I am unboxing this re-release, and we're taking a look at the contents. There's the back cover that was on the shrink wrap. I always try to save those where possible. And we have a slip cover on the Genesis clamshell case itself. So you pull the Sega Genesis game out of the slip cover, and there it is, Undeadline. Now, this was about $60, give or take. I don't remember how much shipping was, but given that the original Mega Drive game goes for hundreds of dollars in the same condition, I feel like $60 is pretty reasonable for this. Now, it may go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. This is a pretty niche release. This is for Genesis/Mega Drive collectors who know that this game is stupidly expensive, want a physical copy of it, but don't want to pay $300. So I don't even know if there's really FOMO when it comes to something like this. You may be enticed by the fact they made a limited print run of X number of units, which I will show you later on, but to me, that's hardly the point. The point here is if you want physical editions of pretty much every Genesis or Mega Drive game, and this one was unobtainable because it was an import or because it was too expensive, you have an alternative here, and one with a really nice presentation. A full color manual, some high gloss art cards that are reflective and printed on really thick stock. I think these look fantastic, and the original Mega Drive game wouldn't have come with these. Look at that reflective foil on them. These have weight to them. They feel really nice to hold. And that's what I don't get about people who buy limited editions and keep them sealed. You never get to hold any of this stuff. You never get to look at any of this stuff. Why buy it if you can't enjoy it? I mean, there are people who are speculators, I guess, and that's their thing, but that's not my thing. This is 435 of 3,820. But don't let those numbers mean much of anything to you. If you're not a Genesis collector, then that doesn't matter. And if it's really that successful, then they could always do another print run. It's not like they said, this is the only time we're ever going to make Undeadline and there will never be more ever again. I mean, it's kind of shocking that somebody actually picked up the rights to it to begin with, but that doesn't mean that somebody couldn't later on. I mean, heck, the people involved in licensing it could pull a surprise and put it on Nintendo Switch Online under Sega Genesis and Mega Drive. It could show up at any time. It's simply up to Nintendo to approve it and the people involved to license it and make everything be available for play in that format. So it could happen. And in the meantime, if you're not willing to pay for this authorized licensed reprint or the original more expensive print, then do what I talked about in the original Undeadline video. You can try this online. The ROM has been dumped. I don't need to tell you how to do any of those kind of things. You can figure it out for yourself. It's available, it's out there, it's playable. It's not going to cost you $60 or $300 if you really want to try this game for yourself. But having a version in English is certainly an improvement over the last time I played it. I mean, it's not like you can't figure it out without English, but at the same time, having that presentation is pretty nice. And here you see some gameplay footage I took from the original video. I figure this is a little easier to watch than trying to film it as I play it on the Analog Mega SG. Now, if I had a capture card of some kind, maybe I could get the footage directly from the HDMI out of the Analog Mega SG, but in this case, the emulator footage looks one-to-one the same as me playing it on the actual Mega SG. And you may notice this game is hard. It's pretty brutally hard, to be honest with you. It's a vertical shoot 'em up. Despite all the things you saw in the box about the plot and the intro that they localized into English for this version, at the end of the day, it's a vertical shoot 'em up. It's constantly throwing things in your face, and unless you've memorized these patterns by playing the levels multiple times, you might be in for a bad time. It is extremely frustrating at times. Not so frustrating that I don't want to play it, but frustrating enough that it's going to take repeated plays to learn each level and beat it. The good news is you can play the levels in any order you want. There's no set pattern. It's a little bit Mega Man-esque in that way. Like, attack it in any order you want to clear these 6 different areas of Undeadline. The game doesn't tell you how to do it. Actually, there's no real advantage to doing it, so it's not really Mega Man-like in that respect. It's not like you're using a boss's power to take down a different boss. No such thing going on here, but it is that way in that it allows you the choice to do it in any order you want. So, advantages, disadvantages, whatever you consider it to be. I would just call it fun that they allow you to make the choice to attack the game any way you want, and maybe you seem to think one level is easier than the other, and that's better for you to start with and get into the groove as you warm up to beat this shooter. So yeah, start with that stage and go from there. Get yourself into the mood for Undeadline. You would think with a name like Undeadline that it would be a lot more gothic, and it does have a cemetery and ruins and things like that, but I don't know that other than Splatterhouse from this era of games that you can really get a horror gothic feel. Maybe some of the early like Sweet Home or Clock Tower type games can somewhat convey that, but 8 or 16-bit graphics just don't feel that scary to me. You can call it undead, but it still looks pixelated and even charming, I think. What other word can I use for it than that? The thing is, until Night Trap came along on Sega CD, there was never really that much concern from Sega about how graphic things would be. Maybe they thought the name Undeadline wouldn't work, and maybe they thought parents would raise some objections to it, but they put out Splatterhouse on the Genesis, so it's not like they were overly concerned, and that's why I bring up Night Trap, because that's the moment when everything really changed and it no longer became optional to put ratings on games. It became mandatory because of all the furor that was generated. It was much ado about nothing, in my opinion, but it's what happened, and history remembers it now for Joe Lieberman being the one who was like, oh my God, this is horrible. Look at these children being influenced by this satanic game where people are being brutally murdered. No, Joe, it was never even that. They toned it down so much before release that it couldn't even be called anything other than cartoonish or comical, and anybody who spent more than a few minutes playing Night Trap would have actually realized that. So, bottom line on Undeadline, in my opinion, is there's nothing here to be scared of. You could play it for Halloween for a stream if you're looking to get into the spirit of the season, but even then, I don't think that it really is that gothic. Now, there are some nice effects to this. Like, look at these multiple layers of parallax scrolling here. You've got, like, you're looking down through the cave. You've got the top scrolling at one speed and the actual play area scrolling at a different speed. It's a very nice effect. It probably isn't super complicated to do, but I appreciate when games make the effort. And since this started out as an MSX game, and I believe that version is even more expensive than the Mega Drive version, this may even be an improvement over the original. I don't know if MSX games always had the smoothest of scrolling. Some of the ones that I've seen looked pretty jank, so I'm impressed by the visual flair that you see on an Undeadline game. Not saying it's the best example of what a Sega Genesis game can do. Not saying it's Mode 7 like Super Nintendo or blast processing like Sega used to claim all the time, but I think it looks good. It certainly flows smoothly. It's not juddery or jittery or glitchy or botchy or anything. I can think of a word to stick in there that would fit that sentence. No, it just flows naturally. It feels fine to play, and like I said before, can be brutally hard at times, but at least in this cavern level, I'm making a decent amount of progress and getting to a mid-stage boss more than a few times, so you can, with trial and error, pick up the layouts of these levels and start to make progress over time. So that might be what I should say about it, is that you might want a game with a challenge. Maybe you're looking for a shoot 'em up where you're not going to be given everything on a silver platter. You're not going to be given bombs that can wipe out all the enemies on the screen or crush bosses just one use and you clear a whole stage. And it's not quite bullet hell either. It's not all the way to the other end of the spectrum either. This is not a game that's going to just absolutely punish you unless you perfectly execute a pattern each and every time. So try it. You might just like it. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. Thank you for watching.